Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my lecture today, and today we are going to talk about externality and different remedies that we have as an outcome of the externalities in the market. So what did we learn so far from externality? One thing that we learned, and it was very clear with the help of different examples, and also we also tried to give you the explanations with the help of graphical illustration, that externalities are a source of economic efficiency. We also discussed that what happens in the optimum level, whether it is market efficiency or in the social efficiency, where we discussed about what are the losses in terms of deadweight loss, and also we tried to understand what is the optimum level of price and quantity, whether economy will produce overproduction or economy will actually have underproduction. So in case of externalities, we actually had divided into two parts. One is negative externalities, that is how all of us in social sciences and economics in particular, that we get bothered when we have negative externalities. So when we refer that externality in case of economics, we always tend to refer that it is negative externalities, right? So in negative externalities, we as students of economics, we always get very sort of bothered about two things. One is of course the water and air, and then water and air both are getting polluted, and therefore then we start thinking about its impact on the overall economy and the society as a whole. So in this particular context, we discussed about negative externalities, but then externality also could be positive. We also discussed about positive externalities. So now in externalities, we also discussed about 2 points, especially from the production's point of view and also from the consumption's point of view, and therefore production negative externalities from productions, and also negative externalities from consumption. Likewise, positive externality from production and positive externality from consumption. So these are the 4 different possibilities that we actually explain with the help of different concept, like marginal private marginal benefits, private marginal cost, and also social marginal benefit and social marginal cost. So the consequences of externalities, if I can summarize, there are 2 as an outcome in the economy that we see is like, one is overproduction of goods, that's actually lead to negative externalities, and undersupply of goods that leads to positive externalities. So this is how we actually kind of summarize what we learn from externality debate. So now when we have the externality, so what are the prescriptions, like as a policy makers, how do we address or how to tackle these externalities? So that is the major challenges for the policy makers. So in this particular context, like we'll again bring the concept of externalities, but we'll also talk about Coase theorem here. But all of us, we know Coase theorem as a student of economics, and this Coase theorem proposed by Ronald Coase, who also got the Nobel in 1991, and then kind of couple of remedies, like how private sector like market can resolve, or and that how government or public sector actually provide the some sort of solutions to address or to tackle externality. So let us first try to discuss, like, what is a private sector solution to negative externalities, and then we'll talk about the public sector solutions to address or to tackle externalities. So let us first see what Ronald Coase raised his worry, or the questions that he raised in his paper in 1960, that seminal work, that particular paper, where he actually raised this question that why won't markets simply compensate the affected parties for externalities. If, like, for example, that if I bring the example that we had already discussed in our previous few lectures, where we have said that either consumer is getting affected or producers are getting affected. So in this particular case, Ronald did not prescribe, but then kind of raise a question like, if we live on the market and if we live on both the parties, those who are getting affected, if they automatically kind of settling these issues and then or tackle externalities, then why not that particular solutions? But then certainly Ronald Coase did not actually prescribe that market will actually settle everything. The kind of critique or the kind of interpretations that came out of Ronald Coase theorem, that he kind of put everything on the market. I think that is not a correct interpretations of Ronald Coase. Rather, it is like over interpretations what he tried to mean. So we'll come back to that point, that what basically he meant about resource allocations and efficiently resource allocation. So we'll come back in our subsequent discussions. So now if we move further, like the first point that was a kind of point of discussion was like internalizing the externality. So how you internalize, either with the help of private sector solutions or with the help of public sector solutions. So what does that mean, like internalizing the externality? Like when either private negotiations or government actions, if it is through private, then private players like affected one, whether fishes community in our example, or the steel or manufacturing producers, if they are actually kind of coming together and negotiating, and with the help of negotiations, if they can settle the issue, then that is one of the ways in which internalization happens. The other one is like if that fails, then government actions will come, and then we'll try to kind of negotiate between these two parties. So this internalizing the externality is one of the points that was highlighted by Ronald Coase. And then what was his proposition? So let us discuss that, and then we'll also give the examples that we are trying to discuss. So here the main point that Ronald Coase kind of highlighted is on property rights. So the definition, the property right that he kind of highlighted is like define property right. So who should have the property right? Is it the fishers community who should have the property right to access river, and then they should record their livelihood from the river, because river is the kind of natural resources, or should we give the right to the industries, whether it is garment industries or textile, or say steel industry, that they should be having the right, and then let's fishers community they come and then bargain in the different. So two ways in which actually property right can be defined, but in this particular case what he emphasized more and more is on the property rights, like define property rights, who will have the access. So what he said, what we learn from Coase theorem is like when there are well defined property rights and costless bargaining, like here two parties, if they are coming together and then trying trying to find out amicable solutions to access the resources or do the business. And there if that bargaining is causing very less cost effective, it's not like one is holding back or or corruption. One can actually say in this kind of bargaining as a byproduct corruptions or some other non-institutional arrangements which becomes very costly, means transaction cost becomes very expensive. If that is manageable or cost less, either low or zero, and property rights are defined very nicely, means well defined between the party, those who are creating the externalities and party affected by the externalities, like in our previous case what we have understood when we try to understand the losses, like deadweight loss, um, and then in that particular, in our case, is like whether I mean who is creating is certainly the industry, like say steel industry or garment industry. They are actually creating the externality at the fisher communities or people who are getting affected directly and indirectly. They are actually kind of affected by the externalities. So this two can bring they can come together to bring the socially optimum market quantity and the price both. So that is where Coase theorem actually highlights. Imagine a couple of cases here. One can actually think of Coase theorem, to place Coase theorem like in, say, in one building in the marketplace. One center in the same building, you have coaching center at the same time that also has music outlet for kind of giving video or CD or any DVD recording center, which is actually kind of loud enough. And then just next door is like coaching center which requires quite kind of space. So definitely when music becomes very loud, that will have negative impact on the next door. But then both the shops are actually following their own activities and doing their own activities, and then both of them are actually not creating any problem in terms of productions. But then definitely one is getting affected by the others. So in that particular case is like externality. So what are the two ways here? So one is coaching center can demand for compensations, or can say that because you are creating noise and I need to now create noise proof learning and teaching environment, and therefore I need to spend this many dollars or this many rupees to make my coaching center soundproof. And that cost I mean the owner of the coaching center may demand from the other shop, or other shop, like the music station, who is that owner of the music station, they may come up with some other kind of alternatives which will not bother the other places. In these two cases, like for the owner of the music station, for them the sound, and then that is very normal for their particular activities, which, but then certainly that is not very normal for the coaching center. Or from the from the externalities point of view, another one solution, like market can, as a committee, or the town committee can decide that coaching center can be placed in some other places. And therefore, even if you see from new ordering of the city or the planning, you will see that educational institutional areas are are placed in certain places, and which will be designated places where it won't be some other activities will not be there. That is how also IT parks are kind of constructed or proposed in different planned cities. So these are one can actually consider like how to discuss how to well define property rights, and how to bargain which involve very less cost or zero cost. So what is a proposition? Proposition is if property rights are well defined and enforceable and transferable and transaction costs are negligible or zero, and there is a complete set of markets. Like in this particular case, what I give the example, like in the same market complex, there are two shops, and for two shops there are certain decorum is needed, certain level of activities which are inevitable, but then certainly one is getting affected by the other. So in this particular case, if market is well defined, is a complete set, and alternatives are there, then definitely an efficient allocation of the resources will result, even if externalities are present, like some amicable solutions. So this is what he tried to say. So Coase theorem doesn't talk about you leave it on the market, let them bargain between them, and then let's informal transaction happens between them. That becomes very costly affairs, and then they resolve. So that is not the market that Ronald Coase sort of proposed. It is in fact it is not talking about non-institutional factors. Rather, he spoke about institutional economics, like how institutions can come together and bind that economic activities. And therefore one can also consider that Ronald Coase property right approach and Ronald Coase theorem is a kind of origin of the institutional economics, like how institute should function, how property should be given to property rights should be given to different individuals or collectives or the group. And then if you give it to the group, there is a different set of issues. Even if you give it to the individual, then also there will be some different set of issues that will come as we discuss further. So this is how property rights are defined in Coase theorem, which we will even further explain. So now when we further proceed with the Coase theorem, is the two conditions that I would like to again reiterate. The first condition is like internalize the externality by well-defined property rights. So certainly property right is the kind of emphasis here, and that should be very well defined. So one can also think of like in case of property right, because the moment property is involved and then rights over property or rights over utilizations of the resources, then transaction cost theory comes, like there formal transactions or informal transactions. And then we already know from labor market theories or informal economies theoretical perspective, we already know that the moment we question or we raise issues about or over property rights, then informality or informal organizations and informal transactions comes, and that is of course some are illicit, some are illegal, and their extra legalities or extra legal activities comes there. So when we are saying that well defined property rights, we really need to define very nicely about what about the property rights and whom to give and how it should be exercised. So that is the condition 1. Condition 2, the efficient solution to an externality does not depend on which party is assigned the property rights, so long as someone is assigned those rights due to opportunity cost. So we are highlighting opportunity cost, what we already discussed in our previous weeks, and we also defined that what is opportunity cost is like the foregone cost, that trade-off. When we do the trade-off, so we choose one over another. So how much extra unit that I'm foregoing to get or in order to get additional or extra unit of the other commodities. So that is the opportunity cost here. So when we talk about property rights, whom to provide here. So should we provide to the fishermen or fisher community, or should we give the property right to the say steel industry, or say garment industry, or here say music owner of the music stations, or say owner of the tuition coaching or coaching center. So how should we, I mean, whom should we give? And then when they, even when we give or when it is assigned, then the beneficiaries or the parties, they will also try to calculate the opportunity cost, like how much they will be getting at the cost of what. So that is the condition 2. So these are the 2 Coase theorems, the basic conditions. So when we say further, like certainly it is now, I mean, it is clear, I hope, to all of you, that Coase theorem does not prescribe that market will resolve all externalities. It is not, I mean, he is not leaving everything on the market. Rather, he says that Coase theorem suggests that market can potentially solve externalities if property rights, again emphasized, that property rights are clearly assigned again, and negotiation is feasible. If negotiation is not feasible between any parties, and there we see in the policy frame, even if we propose policy, any policy, so there is a point of negotiations, and that negotiation is very much part of the whether we follow top down or bottom up approach for the policy frame, is always it is there, right? So negotiation should be there if it is feasible. If it is not feasible, then we can't define property right very nicely. So this is what again emphasize. So it is not on the market that market will take care and one party will have the market power and will decide. So this is certainly, he was not hinting on the, or this Coase theorem was not hinting on the market power or monopoly power of the private of very few private players. It is very few. It is not that. It is basically market should negotiate or will allow negotiations between the parties. So that negotiation space should be open. That is how externalities can be actually dealt with. The second is this point, again I would like to reiterate that the Coase theorem implies that the market will, of course, solve, but then just remember, based on these 2, again, like property rights are incomplete. If it is incomplete, then it will not be resolved or externalities will not be addressed, and if negotiation becomes costly. So here negotiation, when we are saying that negotiation is becoming costly, here we are actually talking about bribes, extra sort of money to get some sort of work done, for setting up any factory. We need in India we need various clearances from various departments, and if that does not happen organically or following due processes, institutional rules and regulations, if one needs to, or owner of that factory or proposed owner of the factory, if he or she needs to pay bribes to get the clearance, that is where it becomes costly, because that particular cost will be kind of impacted or will be spread to the consumer, like to the people, and that's how we will not get economic efficient outcome. So that is very clear. So he was very clear that leaving everything on the market will not resolve the issues. It is basically what we have to see, like we have to see the transaction cost part, like it should not be, negotiation should not become very costly, and then property rights is very well defined, and that's how market will get involved. It is not like we are giving everything on the market and market will take care it's in its own way, because that will have some other repercussions. So that is where the center focus of the argument. So I think I'll just stop here, because we already kind of began and then also set the premises for the Coase theorem, and also we are going, I mean, how to move towards the private and public solutions. And then in our next lecture we'll talk about in details about how private solutions is there to address negative externalities, and public solutions there in terms of positive or negative externalities. So to understand the basic and assumptions behind Coase theorem, I'll request I follow these two books, and I also request you to follow these two books, which will help you to get into the debate much more in details. So I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I see you in my next lecture. Thank you very much for your attention.